Okay, today I'm going to be applying a top coat onto my table that I just refinished. It had a lacquer on it, so I stripped it off with some lacquer thinner. Just basically applying it with the can and pouring it on, and then scraping it off with a plastic knife. You do want to wear a respirator for this, and also even wearing the respirator, I will vent the garage as it's with another fan that blows it out, so because it's pretty strong. I use this method because it's a lot cheaper than using a stripper, and it leaves no residue. It's totally clean. So I did this yesterday or last evening, and it's very easy, clean, and then all I have to do is sand lightly. So I sanded with 120 grit sandpaper, and then I went all the way up to just the 180 because this is what you want when you're applying the finish. You don't want it super smooth, even though you'd think you would, but that way this can adhere to it pretty well. So I'm using the General Finishes High Performance Polycrylic because I want this table, before it was lacquer, it had this amber look. I don't want that. So I'm actually just going to put a clear polycrylic on it. It will not change the color to amber, so it'll just be as clean as the wood is, so it'll look real nice. This is actually mixed. I know it says flat. I like a satin flat finish, so this is mixed half and half with satin and flat. I also don't use it from the can because I don't want to contaminate whenever I'm using a foam brush. When you put the first coat on, a lot of times you're going to pick up stuff on the first coat that's on the table that you haven't gotten off. Even though you tack it off or clean the top off really well, you're still going to get some dust on there. So I like to always, and this is a coffee scooper, take it, scoop it off, put it into another container. That way when I'm done with this, I can pour this out or refilter it, and then pour some more into here. So anyway, that's how I do that. The next thing is going to be, you need to have great lighting. You need to have backlighting on it so that you can see the shine. Otherwise you'll put it on there and you won't really know. So I've got a lot of overhead lights, but this is one of the most important lights. So now I can see as I'm putting it on and I'm going right to left. You always want to go into the wet each time so you don't get these overlapping marks. If you don't have a light, then what you can do is open your garage or have some sort of backlighting, whether it's a window or whatever, set up so that the light is casting over the top of the surface here. And then you'll actually see what I'm talking about. Hopefully it'll show up on the camera. When I put it on, it's going to shine really well. So and then you'll know you've got a good surface on it. Now this is a large table as far as it being wide. So it's going to be, I got to move quickly, and I got to use this, I'm going to use this wide brush. I probably normally would spray this table because it's large, but we're going to do it the old-fashioned way with a brush and see how it comes out. Some spots you'll see I'm going with the grain, some across the grain. You can't see it, but I can feel it. It feels like it's kind of going against the grain, and so that's why I can feel the pull on this brush, and so that's why I'm doing that. And also you'll get a little bit better coverage. As you can see, I'm just flaring it off into the next coat. And then I'm always doing the sides as I go. So I unload the brush a little bit beforehand, and then I'll do the sides. Or at least I try to. And remember, the first coat, you're just getting it on there. You're gonna have to sand part of this down anyway, because it's gonna feel rough at first, because it's the first coat. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You're gonna be sanding it. And I plan on putting 6 coats on this. And I'm gonna put 3 each day. This stuff dries really quick. I'm in Florida right now, and it's like 90 degrees outside right now. That's what you can hear my air conditioner right now running in the garage, but it's about 78 degrees in here right now, so which is perfect. The stuff will dry in 15 to 20 minutes. This is going to be dry to the touch, and then in about an hour to an hour and a half, I will start sanding lightly with 320 grit sandpaper, and that'll give me a nice smooth finish, yet it will still bite for the next coat to be applied. Now, if you don't want to use a foam brush, that's fine. You kind of want to do what you're best at. You're better with a brush, just use a brush. It's always going to come out better on what you're best with, not what somebody tells you that you should use. So, but hopefully the good thing is you can see what I'm talking about the shine. And I'm going to do a close-up so you can see how it's layering as it's drying. So, and you'll see what I'm saying about that. This is about as big, width-wise, as I would be willing to go before I started spraying this, because it's just about hard to work with after this width. And what I mean is, as I go across, it's already becoming tacky all the way over here from that last coat, from the last layer. And I don't like that, so. But always drag into the next layer. Now, before I do this very top edge, I want to do the whole front, and then I tip it off both directions. I'll show you what I mean on that. So now I'm gonna go ahead and put a coat kind of across the grain here, and not too thick on this very edge. Okay, and so get all that off, and then I'm going to do this, where I pull it back off the table, okay, kind of short, and then I'm going to take and run it about an inch off of that back into the wet. And that's it. Okay, I got my first layer put on of the polycrylic, and it's been a couple hours, so it's totally dry. Depending on what your temperature is, when you're letting it dry, it could take longer. But you need it to be dry enough. I mean, it's going to dry to the touch, and within 30 minutes. but you need to be able to sand it to put your next coat on. So I waited 2 hours. It's 76 degrees in here now in my garage. So, so we're gonna sand. I'm using 320 grit sandpaper. I like to use these rubber flat blocks. That way I know I'm not putting too much pressure on it, and I basically just drag it across with the grain. The other way to do it is I have one that's a sanding block. It's a piece of hard oak that's flat, and I'll just take a piece of the same grit sandpaper, lay it on there, and also go with the grain. And you want to stay as methodical as you can and do it the same way each time. So on this particular one, I've got my lighting, so I'm basically going to start at the edge. And I don't put any pressure on it. Just letting the weight of this block do it. I'm kind of coming about this far, which is almost half the table. I'm kind of overlapping. Now I'm going to move down and do the rest of it same way. Just as smooth as I can. Now I don't want to really go over the edges too much because on this particular coating we can't because it's the first coat. But on the second one, second, third, fourth, fifth, however many you're going to put on there, you want to be very careful on the edges so you don't, because it already is thin right there, thinner than the rest. So just be real easy with that. And that's when you're going to want to just take it and basically I'll do this with it. So that's what I'm going to do on the rest of this. See those in the lighting, but once you put your coat on, it will disappear. I'm just doing it all by hand. I want to feel, see if there's any rough spots. And this is the time to do it. If you get a hair or something in it, that's what I tuck in my shirt. I don't want my shirt to lay on top of the table when I'm putting the urethane on. If you have lots of hair, you need to put it up because you're going to get hairs on it. If you get a hair on it, don't try to clean it up. You'll just ruin it. What you can do is the hair will get to the top of the surface of the urethane or the polycrylic in this case, and when you lightly sand it after a couple hours of it drying again, that will come right off and you won't even see it again. So wait till it dries, just leave it in there, otherwise you're going to have these, I see people take and try to pull it out and then they've got these little lines in it because it actually grooves it, so don't do that. But just run your hand over it, make sure there's no rough spots. And you're good to go. And now I'm going to go ahead, get my tack cloth out, which is just a rag with some water on it, and then I'm going to go ahead and put another coat on. Same thing. So now we're on the second coat. I've just cleaned it. You sanded and cleaned it on that last video, and then. Now we're going to put the second coat on. Now you'll notice on the first one I would go this way on some of it, and then I would basically taper it off into each layer. So you can't feel it, but you will on the wood that you're working with. It'll grab. This will grab on certain directions of the grain. and I could feel it. If I put it on, I could actually feel it. So that's why I was going this way. And it basically kind of makes sure that you've got a good coating on it. The other thing, just like in the video, is the lighting. So I'm going to go ahead now. I'm just going to be going one direction because now it's a lot smoother than it was before. One thing I didn't tell you is when you get a new brush, it's not loaded. There's not enough stuff in it, so it comes off very easily. And you never want to do the edge of your project first when it's not taking all of the polycrylic or whatever. So what I'll do is I'll just hit the edge a little like that. Just put a little on there, and then I'll go through and take it off. That way you don't get any runs if you accidentally press too hard with it. And now I'll just keep going as usual. Well, the tabletop finish came out great. I think the customer is going to like it. And that's it for another refinishing.